Iron is definitely one of the most important minerals that our body can possibly utilize throughout our body. So you definitely want to pay attention on these 10 warning signs if you have an iron deficiency. I'm going to talk about 10 big categories that I think are really important. The very first warning signs that you need to look out for iron deficiency really started with me with one of my patients. In fact, it was one of my first patients in medical school that I was on a rotation round, and this patient came in for ADHD, and the mother was very concerned because the child was not paying attention in class. But what I found very interesting about this child is that he didn't present like your typical child with ADHD. In fact, he was very fatigued. He had very pale skin. And so he was just performing really bad in school. And my thought was, I don't know if this is actually a severe ADHD problem. In fact, my professor suggested that we should probably look at some micronutrient deficiencies that this person, an individual, might have. And so we did. And sure enough, what came back was he was severely low in iron. This explained a lot why he had very pale skin and he was very weak. In fact, he had shortness of breath and he even had cold hands and feet. So why this happened is that iron is so important for carrying oxygen to our tissues. So when there's reduced hemoglobin levels, it'll result in decreased oxygen carrying capacity in the red blood cells, and therefore you're going to experience pale skin, coldness in hands and feet, and just like my patient experienced with also weakness. Along those lines, some of the other things that are really important with iron is that it carries a lot of nutrients to our tissues, things such as hair, skin, nails. And so when there's a deficiency in iron, some of the symptoms you're going to experience is brittle nails. And in fact, what you can get, what they call is a spoon brittle nails that kind of has that dip in your nails. And you also could have an inflamed tongue, probably discoloration in the tongue. And you can have dry and damaged skin and hair. Another thing that also goes along with having reduced oxygen because there's a lack of iron, if you are iron deficient, things that you can experience is also in your cardiovascular system. When there's a decreased supply of oxygen to our heart, you're going to experience things such as increased heart rate, chest pains, arrhythmia, which then can lead to major cardiovascular issues down the road. Something that's also overlooked, and I see this common all the time with my patients, is that they can experience definitely a poor immune system. And we look at all different things as far as infection, as far as also autoimmune diseases that can impact our immune system. But a lot of times it can be an iron deficiency because iron does play an optimal role in our immune functionality. And so if you're dealing with infections all the time and getting sick all the time and your immune is just crappy, there could be a possibility of an iron deficiency on your hands. Now, this next one I think is pretty interesting. I experienced this a little while back, probably a long time ago, probably when I was first actually starting practice. And I had a patient that came to me that had these interesting cravings of ice and not food, and also had weird cravings and sometimes craving for dirt. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And I had to kind of look this back up in medical school. And it's something that's called is pica, where someone who actually craves something that is not food related. And when I looked this up, one of the symptoms is a possibility of iron deficiency when you have these weird cravings. Now, there isn't really understanding exactly why. My thought is the body's probably just craving certain minerals, maybe from dirt, because you can get maybe some iron from dirt, or maybe from ice, certain different minerals. It's not quite understood, but it is an interesting symptom, and it usually can be related to someone who has iron deficiency. So I did check her levels, and sure enough, she had iron deficiency. We started to supplement that, and those cravings went away. Now, the other thing that can happen with iron deficiency is it can affect muscle functionality, which then can lead to reduced exercise, performance, and it's due to a lot of not providing nutrients or oxygen to the muscle tissues, which then, of course, is another interesting common symptom that we do see with iron deficiency is the difficulty of swallowing. And that has to do too because of the muscles that helps you swallow. And so if you're having iron deficiency, that could be an early sign of iron deficiency if you have a difficulty swallowing. If you like what you're watching and you're on Instagram, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Dr. LeGrand. Another very interesting issue with iron deficiency is if you're someone that has a hard time regulating your temperature, whether hot and cold, iron plays a big role in thermal regulation. And so if you're iron deficient, this could be the reason why you have a hard time regulating with temperature. Iron also plays a crucial role in the synthesis of collagen, which helps a lot with wound repair, wound healing. So if you have a hard time actually healing your wounds and you take longer than the average person, there could be a possibility of an iron deficiency that's causing this. Now, going back to the importance of iron providing oxygen throughout the body, if there is a reduction in iron, of course, there's going to be reduction in oxygen providing to all the different tissues. Now, one of the most important organs is our brain. So if there's a deficiency in iron, there's going to be a lack of oxygen to the brain as well. And so these can cause symptoms such as headaches, dizziness, but also can cause restless leg syndrome because of lack of oxygen that's being provided throughout the nervous system. Now, this next category reminds me of a patient that I had. He was a male in his mid-40s, and he was coming to me because he was having issues of severe fatigue, but also had ADHD, couldn't concentrate, still with anxiety, depression, you name it. He was dealing with a lot of different mental health issues, as well as having to deal with severe fatigue. And I ran a lot of different tests and I didn't think about iron at first, but after a while, I'm like, you know what? I ran all the different tests. Let's just check your iron levels. Maybe that could be a possibility of what you're deficient in. And sure enough, he was definitely severely deficient in iron. And we did supplement for it and he was getting some improvement. But the thing you understand about iron, there's different types of anemia. It isn't just iron or ferritin issues. It also can be a vitamin B12 issue as well. And so I decided to also test his different B vitamins, and B12 did come back as a deficiency. So when I did the combo of different iron and also vitamin B12 and doing B12 shots with him, we saw a drastic improvement in his energy, his concentration, his ADHD, his depression, anxiety, started to dissipate. And I think that's something that's so vital is that if you are someone that has low iron, or you're someone that does suffer with poor concentration and fatigue and probably have other mental health issues, there's a possible chance that you also might be deficient in vitamin B12. So you should check out this video next where I dive in and talk about all the different symptoms and signs that you should be warned about if you have vitamin B12 deficiency. So watch this video next.